We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Jeff Mack, Newmark, Grub Knight, Frank, and Susan Smith-Vistage. I'd like to introduce Bob Miano, who's the president and CEO of Harvey Nash USA. Bob, what is Harvey Nash USA? What kind of stuff do you guys do?
Well, the business I'm in, I think, is one of the most interesting and topical today in America, and that's the business of jobs. It's organizations and that need to hire people and people that need jobs. At Harvey Nash, we are an executive search, so we place C-level people, CEOs, CIOs, CTOs. It's about 20% of our jobs, and the balance, 80%, is all in the information technology field, where we place either employees or consultants on assignments to corporations.
And how large or how small is this business?
We are globally about 900 million, and in the U.S. about 150 million.
And where are you from originally?
New York City, as you can tell from this accent.
And how many brothers, how many sisters do you have?
I have an older brother and a younger brother.
So you're the middle of three.
I'm the middle child.
How'd that affect you?
I looked at my older brother, who was the superstar and did everything right in life. I looked at that and said, nah, I don't want to do that. I'm more interested in sports and girls. And that was the way I started off.
Yeah, you're more like mom or dad. Are you more like your mother or your father?
Oh, dad.
What do you mean?
Well, my father was very analytical, even though my father and I probably differed on politics, economics, and so forth. But I always found him to be, which I admired tremendously, rational, analytical, and not passionate, not polarizing, willing to discuss both sides of an issue. And I really admired that a lot, and that had a huge effect on me in admiring him.
Well, it sounds to me like even though you and your dad didn't necessarily agree on certain philosophies, you learned how to respect men, older men, at a young age. I'm wondering if that had any effect on your business career. When you took over as the president and CEO of Harvey Nash USA, how large or how small was this organization?
It was about 35 million.
And nowadays?
About 150 million.
And do you tend to have to work with a board and a lot of different other folks that have different opinions? And do you think that maybe your experience with Dad may have prepared you for your success today?
Yes. The board, my boss, the global CEO, is a very astute financial fellow and has things to say.
How does he remind you of your father?
Oh, analytical facts, not visceral, not dealing on emotion. So easier to relate to in terms of facts.
You can thank your dad for training you. Jeffrey?
Bob, did you know your grandparents?
Only my grandmother. One.
What was she like?
A saint, the nicest woman you'd ever meet in your life. Just a good, wholesome person that everybody loved.
Do you reflect on that when you're talking to people in the company or clients, that kind of thing? What did she teach you?
When you asked me the question, the first thing that came to my mind is how I treat my kids. I think that had a huge influence on how I tried to treat my kids. But I also think it definitely carries over into the workplace. I believe very strongly in the golden rule. I apply that constantly. I'm constantly looking in the mirror and trying to make sure that with every employee that we look at, that we give every consideration and we look at ourselves and how do we mentor, coach, train, and so forth. So we try to have a very genteel and altruistic nurturing relationship with us.
You mentioned your brother was an overachiever. How do you feel about your success?
Well, I think that at a young age, I found it overwhelming, and it kind of held me back because he was such an overachiever, and my view was I could never compete with him. But I think as I got older, I had a couple of experiences that kind of led me to just take steps.
What do you mean? What kind of experiences?
Well, probably two experiences. One, I think when I was a senior in high school, when I first got involved with computers, and the idea of what you put in comes out, and it's objective, it's not subjective. And I think that when I was about 21 years old, in my last year of college, I worked for a very large organization, and I got a very important lesson in looking at. I would be looking at the clock and saying 4 hours to go, 3 hours to go. And I made up my mind that I never wanted to have another job where I didn't feel it was exciting, it was value, that I was contributing something that is rewarding, and that got me out of bed. So I was lucky that was my first job and not my last job.
Bob, how many children do you have?
I have 3 boys.
And how old are they?
37, 36, 34.
So what are the main lessons that you tried to really impart to them?
Work. Two things: work ethic and sense of urgency. Work ethic in terms of how you apply yourself. If you want this, you have to do that. There's a correlation between results and what you put into it. And the second is sense of urgency. Again, this carries over 100% to my workplace also. Be the same two things that I would say.
What type of sense of urgency? What do you mean by that?
Well, to get things done, you have a soccer field with a bunch of 10-year-olds, and they kick the ball around, back and forth, back and forth. The object is to score. So sense of urgency to get things done, and that's the objective.
What kind of difference do you think that's made at your company?
Oh, I think that's something that permeates our organization, and I think I would hope that sets us apart in the fact of how do we get things done and not procrastinate, but focus on our job.
Do you think your customers would say that they experience you as having a sense of urgency?
Yes, I think that's one of the things I think that we do well is I think our customers would look at us as value add and meeting expectations, and that's by getting urgency.
We were talking earlier, Bob. You've been on a couple tracks throughout your professional career. What got you set on the track you're on now?
I think it was a progression. I think maybe contrary to a lot of CEOs, I never envisioned a ambition. My philosophy was always do a little bit better than the day before, and to be of value to my corporation, be of value to customers. I really never had grandiose plans, but it just happened by constantly trying to do better than the day before.
You mentioned reading a particular book that impacted you. What was that?
It's called Rites of Passage. When I was in Canada, and the job before this one, and when I was coming back to the U.S., the job in Canada didn't work out too well. Came back to the U.S., read this book, and it really gave me a lot of insight in how to approach getting my next job. And that book led me to, I did certain things that it said in the book, and led me to the job I have today.
Are you a risk taker?
I think I am a risk taker, but maybe other people wouldn't. I try to dip my toe in the water. I'm always, my philosophy is constantly inventing. If you think about a client and a candidate being placed, or a bunch of candidates and a bunch of clients, it's the same thing that happened 50 years ago, 40 years ago. But it's how you go about reaching the client, interfacing with the client, and the same with the candidate. That's what's constantly been changing. Technology, as my previous speaker talked about, we try and apply technology and innovation at every step of the game so we improve the quantity and quality of what we deliver to our clients.
Now, you mentioned that your father was a lot different than you were in his philosophies. But you really, really respected him. How does that come over into your line of work now too as a leader?
I think when I was younger, I didn't realize it. That I looked at more the clash of the conversation. It wasn't really acerbic, but just the different philosophies. But it took me a while to realize that what seeped in subconsciously is looking at him and saying how he went about his life and what he did constructively 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. And I admired it. I admired the fact that he was so dedicated to doing constructive things.
Do you think it had anything to do with who you choose to have around you today? I mean, are you more accepting or more inviting to people with diverse opinions and beliefs?
Absolutely. I think I've surrounded myself with, I look at, we all have positives and shortcomings, negatives, and I try and surround myself with people that are not like me. People that have perhaps a higher emotional quotient than I do, and people that perhaps are more outgoing than I am, and I think the balance works out really well.
The future of this organization, Harvey Nash USA, we're coming through a recession in the United States. What do you think is going to happen to this business?
The business that I'm in is so closely correlated to the GDP.
Mm-hmm.
That is something I focus on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, I think I know how GDP is going to be,
mm-hmm.
because every day I have job orders coming in. So I know before next month's BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics announcement, what it's going to look like.
So you're a good indicator of the economy.
I know the jobs that are coming in the professional world,
mm-hmm.
not in industrial world.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that. So I'm very much focused on that.
Excellent.
And I look at the next 3-4 years as being healthy.
What is the website address for Harvey Nash USA?
Harvey Nash
Excellent. We've been speaking with Bob Miano, President and CEO of Harvey Nash USA, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Jeff, can you give us a rundown on who we've had the opportunity of speaking with today?
What a great show, Herb. We started with Duke Schneider, partner and COO of McElry Harvey; Eric Heil, co-founder, president, and CEO of Right Care Solutions; Dan Heist, CEO of MRO Corporation; and Bob Miano, president, CEO of Harvey Nash USA.
I'd like to thank my co-hosts Susan Smith, Vistage, and Jeff Mack, Mark Grubnight Frank, for giving me a hand structuring the questions. Hope you're providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website, executiveleadersradio.com. That's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
All right, good job. Good job.